Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you do not miss any video lesson from Rao's IAS.
Hello and welcome to Daily Prelims Practice, where we take up the questions from the Hindu and Indian Express and curate them as per the demands of Civil Services Prelims examination. The questions for the discussion are listed on your screen. Now, moving on to the first article of the day that has appeared in the Indian Express talks about GM food crop, as the GM mustard has got the nod for trials. Now, GM mustard or DMH11 is believed that it will raise productivity by 25 to 30%, much more than the high-yielding variety seeds. GEAC has given the green signal regarding the same. Now, UPSC in the previous year has asked questions related to various developments in the agricultural field, and such a question was also seen in the year 2014 when techniques related to transgenic crops were asked about. The practice question in this regard says, consider the following statements regarding Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee or GEAC. The first statement says, GEAC is a non-statutory body under Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. Now this statement is correct. The second statement says, rules for creating GEAC were laid down under the Biodiversity Act of 2002. Now this statement is wrong, as the rules for creating GEAC were laid down under the Environment Protection Act 1986. The third statement says the Biodiversity Act also provides power to GEAC to take punitive measures, and from the above statement it is clear that it was not the Biodiversity Act but the EPA Act that has laid down the rules and procedures, and the same act provides for power and function. So statement 3 is also wrong. Now, going a little further, the powers and functions that are provided under this act to GEAC are: it is responsible for appraisal of activities involving large-scale use of hazardous microorganisms and recombinants in research and industrial production. Secondly, it is also responsible for appraisal of proposal relating to release of genetically engineered organisms and products into the environment. And thirdly, GEAC will also have the power to take punitive actions under the EPA 1986, that is the Environmental Protection Act of 1986, for violations. The question further says, choose the correct code, and the correct code for the given question will be option B, that is one only. Moving on to the next question, the question again pertains to the GM mustard and has featured in the Indian Express. Now, UPSC in the previous year has asked about GEAC, that is the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee, and how it was constituted. A practice question in this regard is framed. The practice question says, consider the following statements. The first statement here is, the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee is constituted under the EPA 1986. Now the discussion over the previous question, it is clear that it was the Environment Protection Act of 1986 under which the GEAC was established and not the Biodiversity Act. So we can also solve this question with the help of knowledge from previous question. So statement 1 here is correct, as GEAC in India was set up to regulate and monitor GM crop production and usage in the country. It is the GEAC which provides or gives the approval for commercial production of GM crops in the country, and also to regulate the use, manufacture, storage, import and export of hazardous organisms, genetically engineered organisms and cells in India. The second statement here says, BT cotton and BT brinjal are the only genetically modified GM crop that have been approved for commercial cultivation in 2002 by Government of India. Now this statement is wrong, as it is only the BT cotton, that is genetically modified crop, that has been given approval for commercial cultivation in 2002 by the Government of India. The question further says, select the correct statement out of the codes given below, and as only statement 1 is correct, the correct code for the given question will be option A, that is one only. Moving to the next article that has featured in the Indian Express talks about the currency and the coins. The article has featured in the news because several AAP leaders has asked the government to put pictures of Goddess Lakshmi and Ganesh on the currency notes to bring prosperity to the country. Now UPSC has previously also asked questions related to the powers and the functions of Reserve Bank of India, and such a question was also seen in the year 2018. So this area becomes important for us. The practice question in this regard says, consider the following statements. The first statement here is, the RBI Act of 1934 gives sole rights to the RBI to issue banknotes in India. Now this statement is correct, as Section 22 of the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934 gives the RBI sole right to issue banknotes in India. Further, the Section 25 states that the design, form and material of banknotes shall be such as may be approved by the central government after consideration of the recommendations made by the RBI Central Board. The second statement here says, the Coinage Act 2011 gives the power to central government to design, mint and distribution of coins. Now this statement is incorrect, as the Coinage Act of 2011 gives the central government the power to design and mint coins in various denominations. In case of the coins, the role of RBI is limited to just distribution of coins that are supplied by the central government. So the distribution function is vested with the RBI and the coins are supplied by the central government. Further, the government decides on the quantity of coins to be minted on the basis of indents received from the RBI on a yearly basis. Moving on to the third statement, it says all the currency note printing presses are owned by RBI through its subsidiary Bharatiya Reserve Bank Note Mudran Limited. Now this statement is again incorrect, as two of India's currency note printing press that are located in Nasik and Devas are owned by Government of India, and two others that are located in Mysore and Salboni are owned by RBI through its wholly owned subsidiary Bharatiya Reserve Bank Note Mudran Limited. The question further says, choose the correct code, and the correct code for the given question will be option C, as statement 1 is correct only. Moving on to the next article that has featured in the Indian Express basically talks about liquidity in the system and tightening on the rising credit demand that has been on a rise due to the festival season and also due to RBI's forex intervention transactions that it has been undertaking. Now UPSC previously has also asked about the relationship between the interest rate and with related to capital expenditure and other areas where there will be possible effect of interest rate decrease or increase. And such a question was also seen in the year 2014. The practice question in this regard says, consider the following statement. The first statement here is, if the banks are net borrower from the RBI under the liquidity adjustment facility or the LAF, the system liquidity can be said to be in surplus. Now this statement is incorrect, as liquidity in the banking system refers to readily available cash that the banks need to meet short-term business and financial needs. On a given day, if the banking system is a net borrower from the RBI under the LAF, the system liquidity can be said to be in deficit. RBI recently on 24th October injected close to 62,000 crore as liquidity entered into the deficit mode. On the other hand, if the banking system is a net lender to the RBI, the system liquidity can be said to be in surplus. Further, going a little deeper, the LAF, that is the Liquidity Adjustment Facility, refers to RBI's operation through which it injects or absorbs liquidity into or from the banking system. And it basically includes operations like repo and reverse repo. Moving on to the statement 2, it says if the banking system liquidity is in deficit, the interest rates are likely to rise. Now this statement is correct, as lower liquidity will in turn increase the rates on the loans and in turn will decrease the investment expenditure. The question further says which among the statement given above is or are correct, and as only statement 2 is correct, the correct code will be option B. The next article of the day that has featured in the Hindu talks about the Mulla Periyar Dam and a 6-member technical committee which have been formed to submit emergency action plan for the downstream part of the dam. Now UPSC in the year 2022 has asked questions related to reservoir and the states where they are located in, and thus this area becomes important for us, where the practice question in this regard has been framed, which says consider the following pairs, that is the dam and the rivers they are associated with. The first pair here is Mulla Periyar Dam on the Periyar River. Now this pair is correctly matched, as the Mulla Periyar Dam was constructed by the British colonial government on the Periyar River, which is one of the largest river in Kerala. Further, the Mulla Periyar Dam is also at the center of long-standing dispute between states of Kerala and Tamil Nadu regarding the usage. The second pair here is Kalanai Dam located on the Kaveri River. Now this pair is also correctly matched, as Kalanai Dam in Tamil Nadu is the oldest dam of India and it is built on the Kaveri River. The dam is about 2000 years old. The third pair given here is Krishna Rajasagar Dam on Tungabhadra River. Now this pair is not correctly matched, as Krishna Rajasagar Dam was built across the river Kaveri for the state of Mysore and Mandya district in Karnataka. Krishna Rajasagar is named after the then ruler of the Mysore kingdom, that is Krishna Raja Wodeyar. The fourth pair given here is Dulhasti Dam on the Chenab River, and which is again correctly matched. Dulhasti Dam is a runoff river project on the Chenab River in the Kishtwar region of the Himalayas. The question further says choose the correct code, and as we can see, only 3 pairs are correct. The correct code for the given question will be option C. That is, only 3 pairs are correctly matched. Moving to the last question of the day that has featured in the Hindu, basically talks about chimpanzee and a feast that was organized at the Alipur Zoological Gardens in West Bengal. Now UPSC in the previous year has asked questions related to various animals, their habitat, and thus this area becomes important for us from the perspective of prelims, as such a question regarding Asiatic lion, camels and one-horned rhinoceros was also seen in the year 2019. The practice question in this regard says, consider the following statements. The first statement is, India is not a natural habitat for chimpanzee. Now this statement is correct, as the chimpanzee, or simply known as the chimp, is a species of great ape and is native to the forest and savanna of tropical Africa. The second statement here says, evidence from the fossils and the DNA sequencing shows that chimpanzee is a sister taxon to the human lineage and is human closest relative. Now this statement is incorrect, as it is the closest human living relative. Some of the closest relative to humans like Neanderthals have gone extinct. They were even more closer to the humans than chimpanzee. The question further says which of the statement given above is or are correct, and as only first statement is correct, the correct code for the given question will be option A. So these were the questions for the day. Stay tuned for more such updates.